10 spine-chilling true stories of being home alone. Discover the sinister secrets uncovered. Beth never liked working the late shift, but as a single mom, she had no choice. Tonight, she trudged home, every step feeling heavier, each breath more labored. The moon hung low and full, casting long shadows over her quiet cul-de-sac. Her modest house stood there, a solitary figure under the sprawling oaks, almost too quiet. Just as she pulled into the driveway, her phone buzzed, jarring her from her exhaustion. It was a voicemail from Tom, her next-door neighbor. "Beth, you need to listen to me." His voice trembled, full of urgency. "There's been a figure lurking around the playground. It's been roaming the area every night." Beth snorted. The guy was just paranoid, right? But a shiver crept down her spine, igniting a knot of unease in her stomach. As she entered her home, the familiar tension of the day began to fade, replaced by an ominous stillness. Tiptoeing into the dimly lit living room, she felt the ticking clock echo through the silence, its rhythm unnervingly loud. She poured herself a cup of tea, hoping to wash away the chaos of the diner. But then came a soft thud from upstairs, a sound that clawed at her nerves, making her heart race. The sense of calm unspooled, replaced by creeping anxiety. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream shattered the night. "Mommy! There's a man outside!" Mia, her daughter, wailed from the bedroom, her face twisted in fear. Beth's heart dropped. She dashed up the stairs, panic surging as she reached the window. The curtains stirred ever so slightly, a draft creeping in as she quickly locked it. "Stay close," she urged, pulling Mia and her little brother Jake into a tight embrace, their small bodies trembling against hers. Whispers wrapped around her, low murmurs diffusing through the house. The attic creaked ominously above them, feeding her dread. Why hadn't Tom's warning sunk in? His odd stares and vague comments about the neighborhood began replaying in her mind. What if he'd been hiding more than just anxiety? Huddled together, the children's whispers painted a picture of shadows flitting across the yard, but Beth's gut twisted tighter. The clock blinked midnight, the ominous darkness grew heavier, wrapping its fingers around her heart. Just when she thought she might be able to calm her racing thoughts, a loud crash erupted from the back door, the sound reverberating through the walls, sending her heart plummeting into her stomach. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Beth could feel fear pulsing in her veins. The pounding of footsteps, heavy and deliberate, jolted her into reality. She glanced toward her children. Their eyes mirrored the same horror she felt clawing at her throat. The illusion of safety they'd known crumbled. The sanctuary she once took for granted now felt like a fragile facade, one she would have to protect at all costs. With a surge of adrenaline, she steeled herself, preparing for whatever monstrosity lurked just beyond her walls. What twisted truth lay hidden in the shadows? The crash echoed like a war drum, relentless and menacing. Beth's breath quickened, each gasp turning shallow. She held her children closer, feeling their bodies tremble against hers, a stark reminder of how innocent they truly were. "Stay quiet," she whispered, her voice barely breaking the air, layered with fear. Heavy footsteps grew closer, slow but purposeful, as they creaked against the old wooden floor. Panic threatened to seep from her pores. She needed a plan, a way to protect Mia and Jake from whatever monster dared to breach her home. The thought of leaving through the front door flooded her mind, but running from danger often led straight into its clutches. "Mommy, what's happening?" Mia's small voice quivered, laced with confusion and dread. "Sure. I'll keep you safe," Beth replied, determination flooding her heart even as her mind raced. She glanced at the attic door, then back to the children. They needed somewhere to hide. The attic could be a sanctuary, or it might lead to her worst fears. She had to take the chance. "Follow me," she urged, her voice a strong whisper. They tiptoed down the hallway, the old boards groaning under their feet. The air grew colder, an unwelcome shiver dancing on her skin. As they reached the attic's entrance, the sound of heavy breathing filled the space behind them. The figure outside had made it into the house. A low growl reverberated from the shadows, rippling through Beth and her children's souls. In a rush of adrenaline, she pushed the attic door open and ushered her little ones inside. "Get in, now." She shoved the door shut just as the unmistakable silhouette loomed in the darkness of the hall. The faint light from the living room flickered, casting shadows that danced erratically along the walls. Beth pressed her ear against the door, straining to catch any sound other than her children's breaths. The whirring silence was shattered again by the loud thud of footsteps, but now they echoed ominously from somewhere within the house. The intruder was searching, methodical, like a predator hunting its prey. Her heart hammered. Could they hear her fear? She fumbled in the dark, felt the wooden frame of the attic crawl space. Too much was at stake for her to panic. The confused whispers of Mia and Jake made her heart ache. What would she have to sacrifice to protect them? Then, the growl erupted once more, louder, closer. A scratch across the door sent jolts through her spine. "Mommy?" Jake whimpered, grasping her pant leg. "Stay close, baby, please." She wrapped her arms around them tightly, feeling their small bodies press against her, warmth seeping into her cold. Feared that a sudden burst of splintering would fill the air. Something was forcing its way in. "Mommy. I'm scared," Mia cried. Beth's instincts kicked in. She needed to find a weapon, anything. "Stay quiet," she hissed, inching backward into the gloom, her hands groping along the attic's edge. As her fingers brushed against something cool and metallic, she froze. A heavy flashlight, its weight comforting amidst the terror. "Please, don't come in," she murmured to the darkness, but her heartbeat drowned out her whispered plea. Just then, the door finally gave way, splintering under pressure. The shadow surged into the room, an outline of malice with intentions she struggled to comprehend. They were no longer safe. Panic clawed at her throat as she faced the figure, the flashlight trembling in her hand. What should she do? The only thought that coursed through her mind was a primal urge to protect her children at any cost. In that moment, she realized, her battle was just beginning. How could she possibly survive the night? The figure moved like a wraith, creeping into the dim light. Beth's heart stopped, a suffocating rush of fear constricting around her throat. It wasn't just a shadow anymore, it had formed tall, broad shoulders, and a face obscured beneath a hood. "Mia, Jake, stay down," she murmured, trying to keep her voice steady. The kids huddled close, the weight of her flashlight now feeling like a mere toy compared to the figure's looming threat. Cold sweat dripped down her spine. "Who's there?" A low voice slithered from the figure, rumbling its way through the attic, wrapping around her like a serpent. "I can smell your fear." Beth gripped the flashlight hard, her knuckles turning white. Logic screamed at her to remain silent. Confrontation rarely ended well in horror stories. But instinct screamed louder. She flicked the flashlight on, the harsh beam slicing through the darkness. The figure flinched, momentarily blinded. "You shouldn't have hidden, little rabbit. It's time to come out and play." The glint of something sharp glimmered in its hand, a knife, reflecting the feeble light. Panic surged through Beth as she realized there was nowhere in the attic to escape. The small windows were dust-choked, sealed tight. "Mommy, I'm scared." Jake's voice cracked as he squeezed her tighter. Beth swallowed, gathering her courage. "Shoo, I've got you," she whispered fiercely, trying to project strength. Another scream echoed in her mind, urging her to fight back. "Time up." The figure snarled, lunging at them. The flashlight wavered in her grasp, a spotlight revealing the hideous twisted grin beneath the hood. Beth swung the flashlight, connecting with a solid thud against the figure's shoulder. A guttural growl erupted from deep within, but it halted, recoiling for just a moment. The children gasped, and for a split second, she thought maybe just maybe they would survive this. But the figure recovered quickly, its grin stretching wider, revealing jagged teeth like a predator's. "You think that will stop me?" it hissed, advancing once more, uncaring about the cruel blow. Adrenaline surged. Beth had to act, had to think fast. She felt along the walls in the darkness, searching for anything that would turn the tide in her favor. Her fingers brushed against the old wooden beams, clinging to memories of the house she loved, hoping they might still offer some defense. "Get behind me," she commanded, positioning her children protectively. "Whatever it is, it won't take you." Within moments, the figure was nearly upon them, and Beth lurched to the side, searching through the clutter of the attic. Her fingers scraped against something cold and heavy, an old rusty pipe. She gripped it tightly, the weight giving her a flicker of hope. "Stay back," she shouted, brandishing the makeshift weapon as she turned to face the menace. The flashlight flickered, threatening to die, casting ghostly shadows that seemed to come alive. With a sudden rush of courage, she lunged, swinging the pipe with every ounce of strength she could muster. A sickening crunch filled the air, causing the creature to stagger back, surprise etched in its terrifying visage. But as the figure lurched backward, an echo of laughter filled the room. "You think this changes anything?" it mocked, a sound that chilled Beth to her core. "The night has only just begun, and I'm not the only one out there." Her breath quickened, and dread seeped into the cracks of her courage. What had she awoken? "Quick, we need to find a way out," she urged, adrenaline-fueled terror pushing them forward. But the sense of escape was tinged with insidious uncertainty. Was she only drawing them closer to the nightmare? As they edged toward the attic door, the shadows shifted menacingly, and every creak echoed ominously. What more awaited them in the suffocating silence? The night held more horrors than just the figure. They had stirred something ancient, something hungry, and now they had to confront it to survive. Would light be the answer, or would it only lead to deeper darkness? Beth felt her heart race. The attic door loomed ahead, promising the potential for escape, yet every creak beneath their feet sounded like a warning, a siren for the darkness that clung to them. She glanced back over her shoulder, winded. The figure was rising slowly, using the support of the wall with an eerie, fluid grace. Its laughter echoed still, wrapping around them like a cold fog. "You can't hide from what's already here," it taunted, the voice smooth as silk, mocking her feeble attempts at defiance. "Come on," she hissed, now pushing the kids ahead of her. "We need to get through." Her grip on the pipe tightened, knuckles aching as panic coursed through her. With every step towards the door, the shadows seemed to stretch, reaching for them, grasping. Mia whimpered quietly, and Beth could feel the chill radiating off her son. "Stay close to me," she whispered, her own voice trembling across the stillness. She shoved the door, nearly losing her balance in the process. It felt heavy, like it was pushing back against her. "You're not going anywhere," the figure growled, the words dripping with malice. Beth shoved harder, and the door creaked open an inch. Just as she prepared to push it farther, a sudden darkness flickered at the edge of her vision. Something moved in the corner, sliding silently through the dust. Was it another shadow? Or had she lost her mind? "Mom?" Jake's voice cracked, sheer terror twisting in his tiny throat. "Just a little more," she urged, sweat pooling in her palms. Behind her, the figure lurked, waiting, its jagged teeth glinting under the flashlight's feeble glow. With a last desperate shove, the door burst open. Beth stumbled into the narrow hallway that led back to the rest of the house, pulling Mia and Jake behind her. But the moment they crossed the threshold, filaments of darkness slithered down the walls like living things reaching out to drag them back into the shadows. "Run!" she shouted, instinctively steering them down the hall and away from the nightmare haunting them. The old floorboards groaned beneath their hurried steps, each sound an echo of a haunting uncertainty. What had that figure said? Was something else lurking in the darkness? "Mama!" Jake cried, his voice breaking the stillness that had wrapped around them. "Where do we go?" She didn't know. Their cozy home, meant to be a sanctuary, now felt like a death trap. They dashed into the kitchen, her mind racing. The knife drawer, it made sense, she had to arm herself with more than just hope. "Help me," Beth pleaded, ripping open the drawer with a shuddering breath. The silverware danced in the dim light, reflecting her frantic eyes. She grabbed a knife, grip steadying as she turned back, heart pounding in her chest. The figure's laughter lingered, a haunting chorus echoing through the walls. "You think you can fight me?" it teased. But another sound pierced the mounting dread. A low growl reverberated from the living room, the unmistakable sound of something entering their space. "Mom, what was that?" Mia's voice trembled, tears brimming in her eyes. Beth held her breath, steeling herself. "I don't know, but we have to get away." The growl morphed into a snarl, tinged with a bitter sweetness, a mockery of their escape. Panic gripped her again. What had she unknowingly unleashed? "Find a place to hide," she shouted. "Now!" They darted into the nearby pantry, squeezing together as silence enveloped them like a shroud. The darkness pressed close, and for a moment, hope dimmed with the flickering light of the flashlight. But the sinister sounds outside grew louder, and they could hear the rustle of movement, the slithering, creeping closer with every heartbeat. What had they stirred? Beth pressed her lips to Mia's forehead, listening intently. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." But deep down, she felt the chill of doubt creeping into her resolve. Was it enough? The growling erupted into frantic smashing sounds, fury unleashed. The pantry door trembled with each impact, sending ripples of fear through the children. Could the two of them withstand this darkness? In that moment of fear and doubt, something primal awoke within her. She couldn't let anything take them. They had to find a way to survive or expose whatever horror lay in the house waiting for them. The door burst open. What awaited them now? There was only one way to face the terror. Only one path toward salvation or doom. The pantry door flew open with a crash, and Beth's heart sank as she tried to shield her children. The figure that had haunted them in the shadows now swirled into the kitchen, its form shifting, flickering like an old film caught in a projector's beam. It was more than an apparition, it was a distortion of reality, gliding forward with eyes that bore into her soul. "Run!" she screamed, grabbing the kids and darting toward the back door, the only escape she could envision. The shadows whipped around them, clawing at their ankles, hot breaths of darkness hissing right at her ear. "You can't outrun your fate." The chill of dread settled like a weight in her stomach, yet adrenaline propelled her forward, heart pounding like a drum in her ears. Mia stumbled behind her, and Beth tightened her grip, pulling her back onto her feet. She redirected them toward the living room, but it felt like moving through viscous air. Beth forced herself to glance back. The entity had coalesced into a shape, broader than before, its tormented face twisting in ecstasy and rage. "You think you can hide? I see you!" It bellowed, its voice echoing around the walls, bending the very fabric of the house. "Over here!" Beth shouted, leading them to the living room. The windows were high and barred, a last line of defense. But she was swiftly losing hope. The ground beneath them felt alive, pulsing with malevolence. The living room was a room alive with memories, laughter, celebrations, but now it felt suffocating, heavy. She pushed through into the alcove, where boxes from their last move still lay scattered. "Jake, grab that," she urged, pointing at a cardboard box filled with clothes. He was shaking, tears streaking down his face as he obeyed. But just as he reached for it, the lights flickered, plunging them into a darkness deeper than the night outside. Panic surged, and Beth felt time stretch. A heartbeat felt like an eternity. "Mom?" Jake's voice trembled. She squeezed his shoulder, forcing calmness into her grip as she scanned the corners of the room. The darkness had weight, pressing against her skin, smothering. It was as if the walls were closing in, the house itself alive with terrible anticipation. Sudden laughter erupted from the shadows, a cruel sound that knifed through her resolve. How sweet this family is, so easy to break. The tension snapped. She bolted toward the door again, deciding to defy the inevitable. Out the back. Now. Every instinct screamed in her head, urging her to break free. The back door swung open with a chilling, mocking creak, revealing the shadowy expanse of the backyard, a void stretching out into darkness. The wind howled as if the night had teeth, ready to gnaw at her flesh. "Where are we going?" Mia's voice was so small, full of fear. Beth hesitated only a moment, grappling with uncertainty, then spun around. "We're getting out," she declared, her grip on the knife reassuring yet heavy. "Stay close." They dashed out into the night, the shadows pursuing them, hungry and relentless. The air felt alive, buzzing with unspeakable tension. But the moment they stepped outside, the laughter stopped, replaced by a dense silence, a sinister pause before the storm. The ground shook beneath them as the entity formed behind the door, its grotesque shape lurching forward into the moonlight. Just then, something else stirred in the bushes, an ink-black figure with eyes like burning coals. "Mom!" Jake whimpered, fear filling the air between them. And that's when Beth realized. This wasn't just one horror, they had awoken something far darker. "Run!" she screamed again, shoving her children ahead. They tore toward the darkness of the woods, where shadows twisted and memories whispered their names. "We need to find a way out before what?" Suddenly, everything went dark again. All sound ceased, and a deep chill filled the night like a swift tidal wave. What had they unleashed into the world? Was it too late to escape the horror that loomed just beyond their trembling forms? The air grew thick with an oppressive silence. Pulsing shadows coiled around them, eager to ensnare. Heartbeats echoed in Beth's ears, drowning out every rational thought. What had been a desperate dash toward escape was morphing into a paralyzing dread that clung to her skin, like a second layer of winter chill. "Mom, where are we?" Mia whispered. The innocence in her voice fractured something deep inside Beth. She wanted to reassure her, to make her feel safe, but the darkness loomed heavy, whispering doubts into her mind. The woods felt alive, rustling with breathless anticipation. "Follow me," she shouted, forcing conviction into her tone, though her legs felt like lead. They plunged deeper into the woods, branches clawing at them, grasping like skeletal hands. Blind panic twisted into her gut. The laughter, the cackling sound from before was back, a mocking echo filling the void around them. "I see you," it cooed, a serpent's hiss that slithered around each tree. "I hear your heart, beating faster now, keep moving," Beth urged, trying to drown out the sinister voice that seemed to weave through the trees, wrapping around her. But an icy tendril of fear gripped her heart. Was it lingering outside the edges of her sight, or was the true danger buried in their past? They stumbled through the underbrush, pushing past the oppressive weight of the night. Moonlight flickered through the skeletal branches, casting twisted, unnatural shadows that danced at the edge of her vision. Just when she thought they had escaped, a sudden rustling yanked her back into panic. "Mom! Look!" Jake's voice cracked. He pointed at a clearing ahead where the ground splintered into an uneven circle. A crumbling rock formation emerged, dark and ominous, covered in a blanket of moss, a cruel irony of nature reclaiming a broken place. "Don't go there!" Beth shouted, her instincts screaming. But they were already drawn toward it, magnetized by the very air pulsating with a strange energy. Laughter bubbled again, echoing between the stones. "Welcome, little ones," the voice purred, seductive and chilling. "To your nightmare." The realization hit. This was more than just a shadow. They had stepped into a memory, a place that held secrets buried by years of silence. With shaking hands, Beth grasped the knife tighter. "Stay close." But as they moved toward the rocks, fear drowned out every rational impulse. Shapes began to swirl in the darkness, faces emerging from shadows, twisted by torment, distorting every thought. "We want to play," they sang, their voices in unison, melding into a sickening symphony that twisted Beth's stomach. "Mom!" Mia screamed, falling back, the edges of terror scraping at her voice. Beth lunged forward, grabbing her, but the shadows rose like a tidal wave, flooding toward them with an energy that felt sentient. "Run!" Beth screamed again, driving forward. They dashed into the clearing, but the rock seemed to shift, blocking their escape. An unnatural wind howled, wrapping around them and sidetracking their path. With nowhere left to go, Beth felt her breath catch shadows pressed in, laughter writhing with dark glee as echoes of their own fears whispered the things they wished to forget. Something cold gripped her shoulder, tightening as the warmth of reality faded into a void where screams became mere whispers. "Mom!" Jake's voice cut through the fog of fear. "What is happening?" "I don't know," she yelled, a mix of fear and determination flooding her. She spun around, eyes wide, searching for a way out. But the laughter intensified, a cold, mocking sound filling the air. That moment, clarity hit. The memories they had buried weren't buried deep enough. They needed to confront the truth before the past swallowed them entirely. "Together!" she shouted, gathering her children close. This was their last chance, and just as the shadows lunged, the earth beneath them trembled. "Mom, look!" Mia pointed to a glimmering light through the thick bramble. A beckoning light that seemed to promise safety, or was it just another deception in a game they didn't know they were playing? Could they trust it? Or was it yet another trap, a cruel twist veiled in hope? Misty fingers of haze peeled away as Beth directed her quaking family towards the light glinting through the dense underbrush. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if fighting to hold their ground against the pull of that warm glow. A momentary flicker of hope surged within her, but it was quickly doused by the cacophonous laughter that surged from behind, amplifying their despair. "Stay close," she ordered, her voice vibrant with urgency. She kept her grip on Mia's hand, not trusting the shadows that lurked too near. The glimmering illumination seemed to pulse with life, promising sanctuary, yet seeping with an uncomfortable allure. "Mom!" Jake's voice trembled. Their bodies tensed as the light flickered, teasing them like a mirage. "Don't look back," she barked, forcing her feet to carry her forward, her thoughts a whirlwind of desperation and fear. They surged ahead, limbs heavy with dread, but not daring to pause. With each step, the shadows writhed around them, shadows stretching with a twisted hunger like dark tendrils reaching out for anything within their grasp. As they neared the light, it took form a gnarled tree stump, gleaming like silver moonlight surrounded by brambles, roots almost crawling like serpents. It beckoned, mesmerizing her children. Beth felt defiance dwindling inside her chest. What had she led them into? "Is it safe?" Mia's whisper held an edge of desperation. "Stay close," Beth repeated, more to herself than to her daughter. The laughter faded momentarily, replaced with the whispers of the wind, but it would be back, she knew it. A chill skipped down her spine as she glanced over her shoulder. The shadows had regrouped, darker and more numerous than before, resembling the ghostly figures from the nightmares of her youth. Just beyond the stump, an exit lay entwined in vines, no ordinary escape. It was a curtain of foliage, partially illuminated by that eerie glow. Beth's heart thudded violently. Was this a passage to freedom or something worse? "Mom!" Jake wailed as the wind picked up suddenly, whipping the branches around them into furious motion. "I don't want to go near that thing." "Then what do we do?" Beth yelled, panic seeping deeper into her voice. The thorns of despair grasped at her will. In one breath, she could smell the damp earth beneath their feet and the whiffs of something rotten that lingered just out of reach. "Mom!" Mia echoed, her little face pale. I feel it. It's watching us. Focus. Keep moving. Beth breathed, urging them on, but her heart knew there was no choice left. They had to confront whatever lay ahead, or dissolve into nothingness under the weight of what hunted them. Suddenly, the laughter crescendoed, now a chorus of voices, ancient and malicious, intertwining. We will not let you pass. The light is false, the night is ours forever. Beth's heart plummeted. Together, remember. She called out fiercely, her resolve muddied by the rising tide of fear. The ground shivered beneath them, and the shadows began to coalesce, forming a swirling mass that curved and twisted, desperately reaching for them. She sensed a boundary inching closer. If they didn't act fast, they would be swallowed whole. On 3. Beth commanded, and her voice rang strong against the encroaching darkness. 1, 2, 3. They lunged toward that hollowed stump, hoping to push through whatever barrier flanked it, but as the dark surged forward, devouring the remaining daylight, the suffocating weight of their past rose up to meet them in an unrelenting surge. With a final effort, they dove into the light, not knowing if it would welcome or betray them. Dark laughter echoed around them, now nearer than it had ever been. Did they truly flame the beacon to safety, or did they step into another labyrinth entwined with echoes of anguish? Would truth burn brighter than the shadows? Or would they find the ghosts of their past lurking in the recesses of that forbidden light? Beth's heart raced as they tumbled through the light, the sensation of being engulfed both liberating and suffocating. The world around them shimmered momentarily before the vibrant glow twisted into a haze of gray. They landed on cool, damp ground, momentarily disoriented. Where are we? Jake's voice pierced through the fog of confusion. A sense of desolation grasped at Beth. The shimmering light had vanished, replaced by oppressive darkness, dim and full of an unfamiliar dread that twisted in her gut. Stay together. She snapped, her throat dry as sandpaper. She could feel the jagged edges of fear dampening her words. Panic bubbled at the surface. Mia clutched her arm, her small fingers trembling violently. Mom, I don't like this place. It smells bad. Mia whispered, burying her face against Beth's side. Keep your eyes open, Beth murmured, glancing around. The hull of the tree stump stood behind them like a silent guardian cloaked in shadows, the forgotten remnants of their hasty escape. The air was heavy, thick with moisture and the distant echo of their choked breaths. The laughter was gone, but the whispers lingered, swirling around them in an eerie symphony. Faint murmurs tinged with malice filled the air. Did we just switch places? She felt a chill creep up her spine. Please no. Suddenly, the ground beneath them pulsated like an erratic heartbeat, and the shadows melted into shapes. A procession of glistening eyes rolled out from the darkness, and her pulse quickened. They were there, watching. Beth's instincts screamed at her to run, but where? The surroundings melded into a vast expanse of nothing, and dread settled heavy on her chest. Mom! There are people here. Jake's fear thickened the air. Focus. Beth's voice tremored with unyielding force. Do you see anything? Any way out? The shadows seemed to lean in closer, an invisible pulse crescendoing as if responding to her plea, brewing with a sinister hunger that contrasted sharply with the glossy facade of hope she had led her children into. Something's trying to trap us, Beth murmured more to herself than to them. Their sanctuary had twisted into a sinister maze. Panic and sobs threatened to erupt around her, but she couldn't allow that to happen. We have to find a way out. Keep moving. Just as they took a step forward, a howl rang out, an unearthly sound that pierced the veil of shadows. The ground trembled, quaking violently beneath their feet as if angered by their presence. The air crackled, and the temperature dipped, a frigid breath of death grasping at their skin. Mia! Jake! Run now! Beth cried, adrenaline flooding her veins, but as they started running, twisting paths opened and closed around them, endlessly shifting as if the very ground was alive, punishing them for their intrusion. Mia fell behind, her feet entangled in roots like ghostly hands reaching up from the abyss. "Mom! I can't!" Jake rushed back, pulling her up, but a figure pushed through the darkness from the corner of Beth's eye. It shimmered with a sickening mockery of light, too familiar, too intimate. She felt the air grow thick with nostalgia, memories wrung her heart like a vice. "Who's there?" A voice croaked, hauntingly familiar, yet twisted. The shadow revealed more, no longer just figments of despair, but faceless entities wielding their past, hungrily reconstructing moments that should have been left behind. They all froze, the laughter returning like a sinister crescendo, echoing the past and present intertwined. Each note clawed mercilessly at the edges of their sanity. "Find the light!" Beth shouted, her resolve slipping as her eyes struggled with the revelation. "It's our only hope." But the darkness thickened. With each passing moment, a haunting question unfurled in her mind: what if the remnants of their past were the true shadows they couldn't escape? "Mama, it knows us," Mia whimpered, tears staining her cheeks, the innocence of her voice a stark contrast to the growing terror. The darkness whispered back, slithering through her thoughts, "Yes, we have always known you," with fear clawing at her insides. Beth whispered the chilling thought that clung to her: what if their greatest horror was already inside them? "Keep running!" she screamed, desperation mixing with the shadows as they darted ahead into oblivion. What awaited them in the maze of memories? Could they trust the flickering glow ahead, or was it just another snare laid by the darkness? The shadows closed around them like a living thing, twisting and curling with intent. Panic clawed at Beth's chest as she pulled her children closer. "Just keep moving," she shouted, but her voice wavered, lost in the oppressive atmosphere that seemed to press against them. Mia stumbled again, and Beth whipped around to grasp her arm firmly. "We can't stop. We can't let it take us." The darkness seemed to chuckle, a soft and infectious sound that filled the air with dread. Beth glanced ahead. The flickering glow they had spotted was growing brighter, but felt more like a lure than salvation. Her instincts screamed for caution, but fear was a powerful motivator. They had to reach it. Jake emerged from the dark, his eyes wide with terror. "Mom! Something's coming." The ground quivered underfoot, and as they turned, their worst fears were realized. Dark figures materialized from the depths, ghostly apparitions with hollow eyes that shone like coals in a fire. They drifted soundlessly, forming a blockade, their presence a suffocating weight that made it hard to breathe. "Back! Move back!" Beth commanded, dragging Mia behind her. But the roots that had ensnared the girl tightened once again. "Help me!" Mia cried, and in that moment, Beth felt a whirlpool of despair threaten to swallow her whole. "Let her go!" shouted Jake, face flushed with urgency, reaching for his sister. The claw-like roots withdrew momentarily, allowing Mia to escape. But their relief was short-lived. The figures began to advance. "Mom, we can't let them touch us." The laughter rose in a crescendo, mingling with the whispers that taunted them. Memories stabbed at Beth, fragments of joy twisted into grotesque shapes, pulling her in different directions. A memory of a family picnic, a sudden crash. A scream that silenced the laughter. Images of what once was, now a horror that closed in around them. "Find the light." Mia pulled away from Beth and stumbled toward the glowing beacon. Before Beth could stop her, the child lunged ahead, eyes locked on the brightness. "No!" Beth screamed, lunging for her, but the darkness surged forward, blocking her path. Cold tendrils wrapped around her ankles, dragging her down, as shadows reached for Mia. "No!" Jake shouted, but his voice was swallowed by the swell of laughter, louder now, mocking them with their misery. Shaking free of the roots, Beth ripped herself away from the grasp. "Mia, no!" But Mia was consumed by the light, her small figure swallowed whole. As that warmth engulfed her, Beth's pulse quickened, her heart thudding erratically in her chest. "We have to go. Now!" Jake pulled at her sleeve, eyes wide with terror. "I can't leave her." We have to help her. The shadow figures drew closer, their laughter now a nightmarish susurration. A primal instinct to protect took over. We can't fight this, Jake. We need to save ourselves first. She hurled herself toward the flickering light, each step a dance with danger. Behind them, the air crackled with energy, a sense of looming dread pressing tightly against her back. As the darkness began to swallow them, maybe forever, a desperate thought flicked in Beth's mind. What if the light promised nothing? What if it was another trap? Mom! Jake's voice wavered, breaking her focus. The light flickered and dimmed, blurring her vision, but she pressed on, certain that retreat was not an option. With each heartbeat, the darkness recoiled, threatening to unravel. She had to trust that rage and love would guide them. But could they outrun the shadows of their past, the sinuous tentacles of regret? With one final surge, they lunged ahead into the growing brightness, while behind them, the darkness howled in furious discontent. Would they emerge as shadows themselves, or would the light reveal a path home? The answer lay just beyond the glow, waiting to be uncovered. Yet, with every step into the unknown, the chilling question echoed louder: what if the light was a trick, beckoning them into a worse nightmare? The brilliance of light enveloped them like a protective cocoon, pulsating and warm. Beth's heart raced, thundering in her chest as they crossed the threshold into the brightness. For a brief moment, it felt like a dream, a weightless freedom that filled her lungs with hope. But that hope was fleeting. Is this it? Jake's voice quivered with uncertainty, his small hands grasping at Beth's arm as if afraid the light could vanish. I don't know, Beth whispered, scanning their new surroundings. They stood in a grove filled with familiar trees, but something felt inherently wrong. The air shimmered with an eerie stillness, unnatural yet radiating a strange warmth. Mia! She called, her mind racing. The fear surged again, it wrapped around her throat like a noose, choking out hope. Mia! Over here, Mom! Mia's voice floated through the trees, brighter and fainter all at once. Beth could sense her daughter, but the grove felt infinite, a labyrinth of light and shadow where time didn't seem to exist. Where are you? Beth shouted back, her heart wrenching at the thought of her little girl lost again, an ache of dread embedding itself deep within her. As if responding to her anguish, the shadows began to creep in from the edges of her vision, whispering the taunts she tried to banish from her mind. She will never be yours again, they hissed, swirling closer. She is ours. No! Beth shouted defiantly, pushing her way through the trees. I will protect my children. But the grove twisted, its paths ensnaring her as the darkness thickened. Mom! Help! Mia's voice echoed from somewhere deeper, sparking fear into a blaze of fear-fueled resolve. Jake, stay by me! She urged, her grip tightening around his wrist as they rushed through the grove. Together, they navigated the labyrinth, desperately seeking the source of Mia's voice, but the shadows danced between them, every echo growing fainter. Suddenly, a burst of light above caught their eyes, illuminating a towering oak tree with deep roots spread wide, its majesty somehow magnificent amidst the encroaching dread. Was this the haven they sought? Beth steered them toward it, the branches weaving intricately, drawing them closer to safety or deeper into a trap. Mom, look! Jake's voice trembled, and she glanced up to see that some branches trembled with a soft glow. It was as if they called to her, yearning for reunion with lost innocence. Mia! Beth cried once more, the urgency in her voice spilling over. I'm coming. A rustle among the low branches, a fleeting glimpse of a small hand trained on her made her heart race. Mom! Right here. Mia peeked out between the branches of the great oak like a beacon of light. Grab her! Beth urged Jake, and they rushed toward the tree. They pushed through thick tendrils of shadow, overcoming whatever barriers their fears sought to erect. Just as Beth reached for Mia, a howl of laughter erupted from behind, turning her blood cold. You'll never escape your fate. She is part of this now, part of the truth you've tried to forget. The ground trembled ominously, the entity in pursuit roiling and churning dangerously close, promising torment anew. "No!" Beth declared, feeling the strength of her protective rage ignite from deep within, giving her the resilience to tear through the chaos. "You don't own us. We are stronger." With renewed fervor, she reached for Mia, feeling her daughter's small fingers intertwine with her own, a palpable connection that ignited a flicker of hope. "We're leaving. Together." As they surged forward, shadows lunged, but Beth wielded her strength, swinging her arm protectively in front of her children. They dove through the roots of the great oak, propelled by the will to survive as a barrier of iridescent light followed them, evaporating the hands of darkness that sought to pull them under. The world shifted again. The sun burst through a misty horizon as they emerged, tangled in vines but still intact, the chilling laughter now stifled far behind them. Gasping for breath, Beth looked around. They were in the familiar backyard of their home, bathed in warm sunlight, untouched, a stark contrast to the dread they had just escaped. "We made it!" Jake cried, relief flooding his voice, as Mia stumbled into Beth's embrace. Relief and exhaustion collided in a wave of tumultuous emotion as tears spilled from Beth's eyes. "We're safe. We did it." "I was scared," Mommy Mia whispered, her small hands clutching Beth tightly, grounding her to the reality of their victory. "I know, baby, but we faced it. We faced everything together." Beth held on to them, feeling warmth reclaim her heart, realizing that love was a light that pierced through the deepest shadows. She pulled them close, overwhelmed with gratitude for their survival. Yet, the tragic memories lingered, shadowy remnants of fear and pain. "We need to talk about what happened. We'll keep our truths, we'll keep each other safe." "Yes, we will," Jake nodded, squeezing Mia's hand gently. But as they stood together, vibrant warmth flooded back into their sanctuary, and the haunting laughter faded into distant memories. This chapter of their lives, tangled with terror, had forged them anew. Together, forever, Beth vowed, feeling a sense of renewed strength swell within her heart, confident she could lead them through whatever dark corners lay ahead. And as they stood in the comforting sunlight, embracing the warmth of each other, they felt unshakable. Even shadows couldn't break them apart. They were survivors, bound by love, capable of facing any darkness ahead. But even as the sun shone brightly, Beth kept a watchful eye, knowing the shadows whispered, lingering on the edge of their lives. They would conquer what remained, together. And as they walked toward their modest home, each step moved forward, every heartbeat alive with resilience and hope. Now, for all of you out there who stuck around for this thrilling conclusion, I need you to act fast. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will twist your heart and keep you up at night. Smash that like button right now and feed the algorithm. I'm counting on you. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We love hearing from true fans like you. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends. Trust me, they need to see this too. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel. Let us keep this community strong.